Hello, welcome to Manhwa Nuna, and today we will be recapping the manhwa called The Devil Who Kisses My Foot. Please like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Enjoy. The manhwa kicks off at a lavish banquet, packed with nobles who can't stop gawking at Lord Redford, the Marquis of Redford's son, and his wife, Lady Maria Redford, as they make their entrance hand in hand. The whispers start right away. They talk about how it has been a while since Maria made a public appearance, and that Lord Redford is so affectionate and caring when he is with her, but it doesn't take long for the gossip to turn sour. The nobles start nitpicking, saying Maria looks thinner and paler than she should, even with all the supposed love she gets from her husband. Then, as always, the conversation shifts to the real elephant in the room. The Redfords still don't have a child. The nobles speculate that the Redfords are going to have a problem if they don't produce an heir soon. They imagine Marquis Redford must be beside himself with worry, but, they say, he can't exactly throw Maria out just because she hasn't had a baby, especially when his son is so head over heels for her. They go on to suggest that the Marquis could step in if he wanted, but he's too soft-hearted to ruin his son's marriage. And of course, they add, Maria is lucky to have married into a family with such tender-hearted men. If she wants to show her gratitude, she'd better hurry up and get pregnant. Naturally, Maria hears every poisonous word. Needing to escape, Maria slips out to the balcony, seething. She can't help but think how pathetic and ignorant these so-called, well-educated nobles are. They pride themselves on their breeding, yet she hasn't heard a single intelligent thought come from any of them. Just then, who has been looking for her finds her and tells her Baron Suri and his wife are eager to meet her. He flashes a smile at her as he beckons her to him. Inside, Maria seethes at the irony. These people have no idea what's really going on behind closed doors. To her, they're nothing more than vipers in fine clothing, hissing their lies. The image of her husband as some loving lord is a cruel joke. But, keeping up appearances, she forces a smile and agrees to follow him back inside. After the banquet, Maria's maid, Corey, is banging on the door, practically begging Maria to answer, her voice frantic. Inside, Maria is hunched over, vomiting everything she ate. When she's finally done, she stares at her reflection in the mirror, then slides down the wall, to the cold, wet floor. Outside, Corey's knocking gets more desperate, pleading with Maria to open up. Finally, Maria swings the door open, snapping at Corey to shut up. Exasperated, she asks if she can't get a single minute alone. Corey apologizes, saying she was just worried. Maria asks if Corey thought she was about to end her life. Maria expresses a troubling sentiment, stating she wouldn't mind dying as it would be preferable to her current existence. When Corey urges her not to speak that way, Maria questions why she shouldn't. She describes her daily life as hellish, feeling she should attempt any means of escape. She reflects on how others are oblivious to the true meaning of being a Redford and the pain she endures. Maria likens her life to a prison, where she must pretend not to see or hear, maintaining a facade even when wounded or crippled. She laments that no one comprehends what she endures, for the sake of the Redford family's peace and honor. Her husband Jacques Redford, the eldest son of Marquis Redford, enters the room, asking her how she is feeling. Maria glares at him, demanding to know why he's entered her chambers. Jacques dismisses Corey, assuring he'll care for Maria. Once alone, he attempts to touch Maria's face, saying that the banquet must have been taxing for her and that she will feel better after some rest. Maria smacks his hand away and shouts for him to leave her alone, blaming him for her distress. Jacques tries to calm her, advising her not to shouldn't listen to what others say, and saying that they can take their time in getting pregnant. Moving away from him, Maria tells Jacques to come to her room later that night for intimacy. Surprised, he questions if she truly believes his earlier words were motivated by a desire for intimacy. Maria admits she'd prefer to avoid it but feels pressured by the events at the banquet. She reminds him of the gossip labeling her infertile and accusing her of potentially ending the Redford lineage. She tells him that he said that those busybodies, referring to the nobles, were excitedly gnawing away at her pride. She used to tell herself it was better to endure it than to suffer the stimulation. Just hold on, she thought, until she had a child. She tells Jacques she doesn't want to be intimate with a monster like him as she trembles, and he asks her if she means that she doesn't want to be intimate with someone who has a strange fetish like him. Jacques, the esteemed eldest son of the Redford family, can't even perform when it comes to making babies the normal way. He only gets excited when his partner is in pain because he's a sadist. Maria screams as she demands to know why he has to be this way. She collapses on the floor, wrenching, and questions why she is supposed to satisfy his guilty desires. Jacqueline coldly tells her to calm down, warning her that the servants might hear. She snaps back, daring the servants to hear their beloved young lord, who supposedly adores his wife as nothing but an animal. She taunts him, saying everyone in the house already knows about his sick hobby. What is he so afraid of? After all, his father would end anyone who dared speak of it. She continues, pointing out that Jacqueline doesn't even need his father's help. He is more than capable of handling things by himself. When he asks her what she means, she accuses him of making people disappear, just like he tried to do with his half-brother. His voice turns icy as he wants her not to go there, but she presses on, asking if he is disappointed that he failed to end his half-brother. She accuses him of sending his younger brother to war, hoping he will die there. Jacqueline never crossed his mind that his brother might return as a hero. She says she guesses that he is terrified that losing his half-brother he despises is coming back. Jacques, who has had enough, grabs her roughly, saying it doesn't matter if the servant hears, because he'll end all their lives anyway. He shoves her to the ground, dragging her back when she tries to crawl away. He reminds her that she agreed to be intimate with him that night, so what does it matter if they start now? Inside she's screaming, desperate to escape this nightmare. She only agreed to endure it, to numb the pain, but now she can't bear a second. She wants to escape from this misery, and pleads with someone, anyone, to save her, as her husband becomes intimate with her without her consent. Meanwhile, Lowell returns. One of Lowell's companions inquired if something was amiss, to which Lowell responded that everything was fine, and they should proceed. The house of Marquis Redford ruled at the center of the capital, so it came as no surprise that numerous nobles took a keen interest in the marriage of the eldest son, Jacques. It was beyond anyone's imagination that such an esteemed family would extend a marriage proposal to Maria Kreth, the youngest daughter of Baron Kreth's household. Her family had been on the verge of relinquishing their noble title due to overwhelming debt, so they were elated upon receiving the marriage proposal from the Redford family. Her parents and brothers were overjoyed, expressing their immense pride in her for saving their family. Whispers circulated that Lord Jacques' bride hailed from a financially ruined family, and that she was undeserving of the marriage. Maria was acutely aware that she wasn't Jacques' equal, and that their union was only possible because he had chosen her. A week following their nuptials, Maria found herself alone most of the time as Jacques frequently left the house, leaving her feeling rather bored. The manner was strict but perfect, the food was excellent and abundant but never too extravagant, the windows and hallways were old but always very clean, the garden was well maintained and pleasant when enjoying a cup of tea, and everyone in the house followed regular schedules, which made her wonder what Jacques Redford, the successor of his family, that values discipline and temperament to such an extent, saw in her. One morning after she woke up, she told herself that she needed to be strong and not disappoint her family. When she left her family, her mother told her that she should be thankful and not cause any trouble, and she should have a good life loved by her husband. She vowed to herself that she could do that, and she would do her best with the things she could do. As she was about to exit her room in search of a piece of chocolate, she accidentally collided with a vase. The vase toppled and shattered, causing Maria to panic slightly. She surmised that any vase owned by the Redfords must be of considerable value. She couldn't fathom making such a blunder so soon after her marriage, and fretted over how to explain the incident to the Redfords as she gathered the scattered flowers. Maria worried that Jacques Redford would be disappointed in her, and she feared he could kick her out at any moment, given that they had not yet consummated their marriage. She began to weep when Jacques discovered her and inquired if she had cut herself. He suggested that she could have summoned a servant to clean up the mess, as she might have injured herself. Maria apologized profusely for breaking the vase. Jacques gazed at her and assured her not to worry, emphasizing that her well-being was far more important to him than a mere vase. He then gently kissed her hand before calling for someone to come and tidy up the broken pieces. That night as they lay in bed, Maria pondered whether it was acceptable that they had not been intimate during the entire week of their marriage, and if she should initiate something herself. The following morning, she approached Jacques, saying she wished to discuss something with him. When he inquired what it was, she embraced him instead, and he immediately understood her unspoken question. Jacques smiled and reassured her that she needn't worry about such matters, as she was still quite young. Maria countered that she was already 15 years old. He patted her head gently and explained that while she was of legal age according to imperial law, he preferred to wait until she felt absolutely ready. He suggested they could wait until she reached adulthood to consummate the marriage, to which she agreed. This interaction led Maria to believe that perhaps Jacques cared for her more deeply than she had initially thought. With just 3 years remaining until she reached adulthood, she resolved to enjoy her time until the day they could perfect their love. However, when that day arrived, Maria cried out in pain and was left bruised. Jacques apologized for hurting her, and she insisted it was all right. Although she sensed something was amiss, she convinced herself that this was likely how it was supposed to be, believing Jacques would never intentionally harm her. Yet, he continued to hurt her every time they were intimate. Maria reflected on everything her mother had told her and all the dreams she had once held that now lay shattered. She came to the chilling realization that there was a specific reason why the successor of the Redford family had chosen her. In the present moment, after her husband's departure, Maria lies unclothed and in pain, her body covered in bruises. Suddenly, she experiences a vision of a young boy looking at her. She addresses him as Lowell, questioning if it's truly him and why he has returned so late. She expresses how lonely she has been. As the boy's image begins to fade, Maria reaches out desperately, pleading with him not to leave. She tells him that she's in tremendous pain and begs him to stay. Despite her pleas, the vision of the boy vanishes, leaving Maria alone once more as she continues to implore him not to abandon her. Maria still remembers Lowell as he looked the last time she saw him, as a boy who was only slightly taller than her. Although he had been away for so long that even that image of him has started to fade, the young, innocent boy she spent her teenage years with, that is still the image of Lowell that comes to her mind first. 1 month after her marriage, Maria was asleep when she felt a gentle touch on her face. The tickling sensation made her wonder if it was Jacques. Upon opening her eyes, she was startled to see Lowell staring directly at her. Her shocked exclamation frightened Lowell, causing him to duck down and hide from her. When he cautiously peeked at her again, she thought he was a small boy, and asked him who he was. She noted that his attire didn't resemble that of a servant's child. She briefly considered whether he might be Marquis Redford's rumored illegitimate child with a commoner, though she found it odd that she hadn't seen him at the wedding or at any point since moving into the house. Maria asked if he was Jacques' brother, but received only a silent stare in response. She introduced herself as Maria Kreth, quickly correcting her surname to Redford. She explained that this meant she was married to his brother, asking if he understood. When she inquired about his name and he replied Lowell, Maria admitted to being startled by his unexpected presence, but expressed that it was still pleasant to meet him. She then politely requested that he leave, explaining that it was improper for him to enter a married couple's room without permission. As Maria began to request that Lowell leave, he unexpectedly touched her face and told her that she was really pretty, catching her off guard. She thanked him, causing him to hide again in embarrassment. Rising from the bed, Maria offered to escort him back to his room, asking him to lead the way. Lowell stood fidgeting, prompting Maria to inquire what was wrong and repeat her request to be shown to his room. He then revealed that he didn't have a room there and that it wasn't his home. Before Maria could ask any further questions, Lowell suddenly pushed past her and ran out. Maria pursued him, concerned that he might injure himself and that she could be held responsible. She was acutely aware of the importance of her marriage, not just for her role as the wife of the Redford successor, but also as a representative of the Kreth family, whose connection to the Redfords held immense value. As she chased after Lowell, she called out his name, pleading with him to stop running for fear of him getting hurt, and he ignored her entreaties. Took the stairs to the first floor, which led to the servants' quarters, and she told him that he wouldn't be able to run anymore, because there was nothing there. She told him that he should come and let them go to sleep, but he continued to run. The chase continued until Lowell descended the stairs leading to the basement. Maria hesitated at the entrance, deterred by the darkness, but ultimately decided to follow. She noted that while all manors typically had basements for food storage, the Redford basement didn't appear to serve that purpose. Its unexpected depth and darkness left her puzzled as to why Lowell would venture down there. The darkness of the basement suddenly evoked an old legend in Maria's mind, one that claimed the Redfords were descendants of a demon. She recalled this rumor dating back to the era of witch hunts, but quickly dismissed it as a baseless attempt to discredit the Redford family. Despite her rational thoughts, she couldn't help but wonder about its veracity. As she descended further, Maria reassured herself that it was merely a silly story. She called out Lowell's name again, but received no response. Upon reaching the bottom of the stairs, she encountered a solid steel gate that reminded her of a prison entrance, leaving her perplexed by its presence in the basement. Pushing the gate open, Maria discovered Lowell standing in the center of an extremely old room. The space was dimly lit by a single, very high window, which provided the only source of light. She told him that they should go back, because that place doesn't seem very nice. He looked at her and told her that that was where he stayed, which surprised her. Maria found it difficult to believe, observing that the room contained nothing but an old bed and table. She thought to herself that even the servants weren't made to live in such conditions. Lowell reminded her of her earlier statement about going to his room. He then instructed her to leave, and just as he was about to say something more, Jacques unexpectedly entered the room, smiling at Maria. Jacques told Maria that he had been looking for her everywhere, and then dragged her out of the basement. Maria was confused and asked him to slow down, wondering why he was in such a rush. Was he mad that she had gone down there? But instead of slowing down, Jacques just tightened his grip and practically dragged her all the way to their room. She had never seen him like this before. Once they got to the room, Jacques grabbed a towel, wiped his hand, and then told her, with a bit of frustration, that even if she was inside the manor, she shouldn't go wandering around random places, especially not in the middle of the night. She couldn't see his face clearly, but she knew he was upset. Maria couldn't figure out why he was so angry. After all, she was just following Lowell because she was worried about Jacques' little brother. When she asked Jacques why Lowell was living in the basement, she noticed his eyes twitch, and that really freaked her out. Immediately, she regretted asking, realizing how bad it sounded. She knew a little boy wouldn't be sleeping in a place like that unless something was really wrong, and she felt like she had just accused Jacques or his father of something. Jacques sat on the bed and explained to Maria that Lowell was being disciplined. He bluntly told her that while Lowell was technically a Redford, he was the son of a lowly prostitute, who worked the streets, which probably explained his rough behavior. Jacques said Lowell should be grateful they even took him in, when they could have just ignored him altogether. But instead of being grateful, Lowell was hostile, and even tried to run away. Every teacher had something bad to say about Lowell, because of his rebellious nature. Jacques added that they now had to keep him hidden, because he was an embarrassment to the family. He emphasized that they had to be strict with Lowell and hoped Maria understood that this was just how the Redford family had always handled things. Maria then asked if Jacques was disciplined like that as a child. In response, Jacques walked over, took her hand, and simply said, yes. That was when Maria realized she never should have asked about Lowell living in the basement. She also felt her confidence crumble. She wasn't sure she could survive in the Redford family or adapt to their harsh ways. The next day, the whole family, including Marquis Redford and Lowell, gathered for a meal. Suddenly, thunder boomed outside, and Lowell dropped his spoon, covered his ears, and started trembling in fear, crying out that he was scared. The Marquis, clearly fed up, slammed his hand on the table, grabbed Lowell from the floor, and yelled at him to sit up straight. Then he turned to Maria, saying that as she could see, Lowell was far from perfect. He mentioned that he had wanted to introduce Lowell to her after he'd had more training, but since she'd already seen him, there was no point in waiting. He then formally introduced Lowell as his second son and announced that he would be joining them for meals from now on. After breakfast, everyone in House Redford got back to their usual routines. The place was always buzzing with activity. Jacques was wrapped up in his lessons, and the Marquis had his hands full with all his duties as head of the family. Whether it was the chef or the maid, everyone had their tasks and knew exactly what to do. But there were two people who didn't quite fit in, Maria and Lowell. Maria found Lowell curled up in a corner, shaking because of the rain, so she sat down beside him and offered him some chocolates she had brought from the house of Bardem. As time passed, Lowell's room was moved to the first floor, though he still got sent to the basement as punishment from time to time. With the move, Maria and Lowell started seeing each other more often. One day, she found him by the pond, lost in thought, so she snuck up and scared him. Laughing, she invited him to have tea with her. In a manner where everything felt difficult and unwelcoming, they found a sense of comfort in each other. They were alike in a lot of ways. But what they didn't know was that Jacques' assistant was quietly watching them the whole time. As they sat together having tea, Maria commented on how rosemary always has a deep and lasting scent. She playfully asked Lowell if he agreed, teasing him by calling him Countess Lowell. He licked his lips and corrected her, saying, "I'm a boy," which made her laugh. Lowell, however, felt out of place. This wasn't really tea time, it was just pretend. He couldn't figure out why she kept hanging around him. He sniffed his tea, but couldn't tell if the rosemary had a strong scent or not. When Maria asked how he liked the aroma, he simply said it wasn't bad, though he wondered why he even said that. Nothing made sense to him, and he didn't want to be there. He despised everyone connected to the Redfords, tutors, maids, all of them. And Maria, as Jacques' wife, shared that cursed last name. Annoyed, Lowell put his foot up on the table. Maria gently scolded him, telling him to take his foot down and calling him Countess Lowell again. Irritated, he snapped, "I'm a boy." He pushed his hair out of his face and said he didn't want to play this game anymore. Maria noticed how long his hair had gotten and asked if he could even see through his bangs. When she reached out to touch his hair, he pushed her hand away and asked what she was doing. But in that moment, he realized that her touch wasn't aggressive like the adults. Maria then took the ribbon out of her own hair, saying it would be better if he tied his hair back so he could see more clearly. As she started to tie his hair, Lowell noticed that Maria wasn't really an adult yet either. In that house, she was probably the only one who could understand what he was going through. When Jacques returned to the manor, he immediately asked his assistant where Maria was. When he found out she was having tea with Lowell in the garden, he felt a wave of irritation. Meanwhile, in the garden, Maria had just finished tying up Lowell's bangs, and told him he looked so handsome. She suggested they trim his bangs, and asked the maid to fetch some scissors, but Lowell quickly said no. As Maria pleaded with him to get just a little trim, even offering him chocolate as a bribe, he stubbornly refused. When she tried to touch his hair again, he slapped her hand away. The slap hurt Maria and shocked Lowell, but he quickly regained his composure and firmly told her that he didn't want to cut his hair and never would. Maria was about to say something when she heard Jacques calling her name. She lit up with excitement and ran over to him, asking if he was back. Jacques told her he had cut his meeting short, just in case she was waiting for him. As they talked, Lowell watched them, realizing with a pang that he wasn't the only one Maria cared about. Jacques gave Lowell a cold, icy stare, before turning to Maria and telling her that Sir Grey had sent her a present. He asked if she'd like to go inside and take a look. As Jacques ushered Maria away from the garden, Lowell silently removed the ribbons from his hair, feeling more forgotten than ever. Later, the Marquis confided in Maria that the reason Lowell refused to cut his hair was because of a traumatic experience from his time at the brothel. One of the degenerates who frequented the place had abused Lowell with a dagger, leaving him with a deep fear of sharp objects. The mere sight of them was enough to send him into a panic. Fast forward 12 years to the present, and Marquis Redford informs Maria that their family has been invited to this year's imperial banquet by His Majesty. He tells her that she must join them, as it's a great honor to be invited, and she should challenge herself to attend. Maria agrees, acknowledging that it's been a while since the last banquet, and adds that it's an honor since His Majesty sent the invitation himself. The Marquis explains that the reason there hadn't been any banquets lately was because the barbarians had been wreaking havoc, but now, thanks to Lowell, things have changed. He mentions they were worried something bad might happen since Lowell was just a child at the time, but no one expected he would return. Maria remarks that the Redford family's influence is stronger than ever because of Lowell, expressing her pride in him. Meanwhile, Jacques angrily slices his steak. The Marquis, however, dismisses the idea that their influence rests on Lowell alone, referring to him as that boy. He insists that the Redfords were always powerful, even without Lowell, and no one could deny that they are the greatest family in the empire. He adds that it's the duty of a noble to protect the nation. Maria can't help but think about how Lowell survived a war he was essentially sent to die in. She imagines how difficult it must have been for the boy who once feared even scissors. The Marquis, acknowledging Lowell's undeniable achievements, predicts that His Majesty will reward him with a title and a fiefdom. But Maria quietly wonders if that will ever be enough to make up for the pain Lowell has endured. She suggests that the Marquis prepare a gift for Lowell as his father, and in response, Jacques grips his steak knife even tighter. The Marquis responds by saying that he had indeed planned to find a suitable wife for Lowell, since Lowell is of the age to marry. He said he would look for a lady from an influential family to be his bride. Hearing this, Maria quickly realizes she can't let Jacques interfere with Lowell's marriage. So she offers to take on the task herself, telling the Marquis that since she was the one who taught Lowell everything, it would be an honor for her to find him a wife. The Marquis agrees, praising her for how well she had treated Lowell, and adds that she is the perfect person for the job. He even says that she would make an excellent mother, and she should please do her best to produce an heir. That night, as Corey helps Maria prepare for bed, Jacques suddenly barges into her room. Startled, Maria calmly asks Corey to give them a moment. Once they are alone, Jacques accuses Maria of playing some sort of twisted role-playing game. Maria, unfazed, asks what he was talking about and why he feels the need to burst into her room while she is dressing, just to say that. Jacques ignores her question and asks her if she thinks she is Lowell's nanny. Then he asks why she is so eager to meddle in Lowell's affairs. Maria shoots back, asking why she shouldn't be involved since it was something she genuinely wanted to do. Then she asks him why he hates his brother so much. Jacques coldly replies that Lowell, who is of a vulgar background, is no brother of his. He says that it makes him want to vomit when he sees how close she is to Lowell. Then he asks her what Lowell is to her anyway. Maria calmly responds, saying that Lowell is her family and is like a younger brother to her, which makes Jacques chuckle darkly. He moves closer, sliding his leg between hers, and leans in, telling her that Lowell is not her family, and certainly not her brother. He insists that her only family is him, her husband, Jacques Redford, and if she wants to role-play his family, she should start with him. He reminds her that she bears the Redford name because he brought her here from the ruined Creth family, a statement that sends a painful throb through her heart. Jacques gazes at her with a sad expression, claiming that it hurts him to see the sadness in her eyes. Maria pulls her hand away from his grip and sharply retorts that the courtesan he's been seeing is quite beautiful. She coldly adds that perhaps the reason he's never been satisfied with her is that Katrina, the courtesan, does things she cannot. Just as Katrina is special to him, Maria asserts, Lowell is special to her. With a fierce warning in her voice, she tells Jacques not to dare do anything to Lowell when he returns. In the courtesan house, Katrina hums a tune while carefully choosing her most elegant outfit. As she adjusts the dress, another quotation asks her if she isn't going a bit overboard. Katrina smirks and replies that when one entertains a high-profile client, it is important to make an effort. The other quotation, unimpressed, asks if she is talking about the man with the troubling habit. Katrina is about to snap back when Jacques bursts into the room. His presence instantly brightens Katrina's mood, knowing he chooses to visit her daily instead of being with his wife. Once they are alone, Jacques roughly pushes Katrina onto the bed, surprising her with his aggression. Then she asks if something is wrong, noticing he is more awkward than usual. Jacques, avoiding the question, orders her to comply with his demand. Then he whips her until she bleeds, but she doesn't complain. She thinks that whatever he wants, she will do as he roughly becomes intimate with her. She thinks that a noble woman can't handle a man like him. She also thinks that the second son is an illegitimate child, so she has a way better chance of bearing a child for Jacques than his skinny wife. If she can have his child, and her child gets accepted into House Redford, then she will quit the horrible life of a courtesan. Jacques thinks that he wants to be a good husband to Maria. He wanted to treat her well, because she married him at a young age, but she dared to reject him. As he flogs Katrina, he thinks that it is the duty of a wife to succumb to the desires of her husband, and wonders if that is so difficult for Maria to do. Back at the Redford house, Maria couldn't shake the memory of her conversation with Jacques. She was still reeling from the hurtful things he said and the cold expression on his face. It is clear to her now that he isn't willing to suppress his desires and meet her halfway. It took her years to realize that he is not someone who is willing to give her his all, and he merely thinks of her as a possession. She remembers the day in the garden when she found Lowell sitting in a corner. She had asked him if that was where he ran away to, and he denied it, insisting he hadn't run away. When she accused him of avoiding study, he told her to leave him alone and asked if she didn't have better things to do. Maria explained that she had finished all her books that morning and, with Jacques not home until the evening, the only thing left to do was play hide and seek with him. Lowell reluctantly agreed to hide, mumbling to himself about how much fun she'd have with that game. At that point, she hadn't thought of Lowell as anything special. He was just someone to pass the time with, a distraction from her boredom. But as they spent more time together, they grew close. Their bond deepened to the point where the idea of parting seemed unimaginable. Later, Jacques asked his assistant about Maria's activities for the day. The assistant reported that she spent the morning reading books and the afternoon with Master Lowell, which didn't sit well with Jacques. Curious, he asked what they were doing, and the assistant mentioned they were playing in the garden. Annoyed, Jacques instructed his assistant to bring Maria to him. When Maria joined Jacques for tea, he surprised her by announcing that they were going on vacation. Her eyes widened as she asked when they were leaving. Jacques revealed it would be the following day, which took her by even more surprise. He mentioned that he had already informed his father and they would be leaving early in the morning, so she should go to bed early. Maria set down her tea, puzzled by the last-minute nature of the trip and concerned that Jacques hadn't asked for her input on what was supposed to be a joint vacation. She voiced her feelings, saying the plan seemed rushed and she needed time to pack. Jacques stood up, moved closer as he told her that she could have the servants handle the packing. Sitting down beside her, he took her hand and told her that as a Redford, she shouldn't worry about such minor tasks. He continued by saying that he knows it was so last minute, but she knows how busy he has been with his professional training. He explained that there was an issue with his schedule, which was why he suddenly had 2 free days to himself, and he was going to become busy again soon. He didn't want to waste the opportunity, and he wanted to spend this time with her. Maria agreed to go, saying she was excited about the trip. She told herself that she was just being overly anxious, and that Jacques was always considerate of her needs. The next day, Jacques took Maria to the beach, and she was thrilled. As they enjoyed the sun and sand, Jacques reminded her not to get too excited yet because he had planned a party for her later that night. After their beach outing, they went to a restaurant where they shared a delicious meal and had a pleasant conversation. They spent the afternoon sightseeing before heading to the party Jacques had organized. At the party, Jacques asked Maria if she liked to dance. She admitted she had learned as a child but hadn't had many chances to dance recently. Jacques took her hand and encouraged her to dance the night away, promising she'd come to love it. He patiently guided her through the steps, even though she already knew them. As they danced, Maria stepped on his foot. He laughed and told her she was a great dancer, making her feel incredibly happy. She couldn't believe how wonderful the evening was, feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. Later, they went on a cruise. Maria stood on the deck, gazing out at the ocean and watching the sunset, savoring the fresh sea air. She thought the day felt like a dream, experiencing an exotic beach, trying new foods, and dancing the night away. This holiday was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Life at the Redford house was comfortable, but it made her feel nervous and on edge as if she was always walking on eggshells. She realized that perhaps this trip was the kind of freedom she had needed all along. As she stood lost in thought, Jacques approached her from behind, draping a blanket over her shoulders as he hugged her from behind. He gently told her that it was going to get cold when the sun sets, and the ocean breeze can be quite chilly. As Jacques hugged Maria, she wondered if he could hear her heart pounding so loudly. She was astonished at how much he had planned for their last-minute trip, realizing she had underestimated his effort and thoughtfulness. She had never imagined such a sense of freedom until this trip, all thanks to Jacques. Jacques told her that he understood how lonely she might feel being away from her family makes her lonely, and that the Redford house is more restrictive than other families, but that is why she can always share her hardships with him, and that is why he is her husband. Looking at him, Maria felt that this holiday, with its affectionate moments and genuine connection, was everything she could have wished for. They shared a tender kiss, and Maria felt that it was the happiest day she could imagine. That is why she completely forgot that she had left without saying anything to Lowell. Back at the Redford house, Lowell searched every room, growing increasingly worried and confused about Maria's whereabouts. When he realized she was missing, he wondered if she had left because of something he did or if she was angry with him. Meanwhile, on the boat, Jacques joined Maria in bed. She was so drunk of delight, happiness, anticipation, and excitement, and she completely overlooked the fact that a young child was looking for her so desperately. Lowell stood in the hallways of the Redford house, thinking that he was so sorry, and that Maria should please come back. As things heated up between Jacques and Maria in bed, she found herself wondering if their first time would happen during the holiday. Jacques noticed her tension and attributed it to the long day they had, suggesting that she should lie down and relax, while he helped loosen her muscles. She did, as he said, thinking she just had an embarrassing thought, and he wouldn't do anything with her now because he said he wanted to wait until she became an adult. Jacques began massaging her legs and thighs, making Maria blush and feel oddly flustered. When he kissed her knee, she wondered if massages were supposed to be like this. Later, as Maria fell asleep, Jacques took care of himself in the bathroom, as he thought that being with Maria was still too soon. He thought that her wrists, her ankles, and the ankles are still too fragile, they need to be a bit sturdier, and once she has grown enough to be able to bear it, then she would be entirely his. The next day, when they returned to the Redford house, Lowell dashed out of the house, calling Maria's name as his maid chased after him. Jacques quickly shielded Maria, telling her to go inside and rest. However, Maria gently moved his hand aside, saying that she thinks Lowell wants to say something to her, and she asked Lowell what was wrong. Through tears, Lowell apologized, saying he was sorry, and that everything was his fault. He promised to do whatever she wanted, including playing hide and seek and even getting his hair cut, if she would just not leave without saying anything again. Jacques sighed, questioning if this was what they had come back to. Lowell's maid apologized to Jacques, explaining that Master Lowell had missed Lady Redford greatly while they were away. Maria was taken aback, having only seen Lowell's annoyance toward her. Lowell slapped his maid's hand away, insisting that Maria, not anyone else, should cut his hair. He said he wanted her to do it, not anyone else. Just then, Marquis Redford appeared, asking Maria to cut Lowell's hair and expressed his relief that Lowell had finally agreed to stop being stubborn. Maria suggested that perhaps a professional hairdresser would be better suited for the task, and Jacques stepped in front of Maria as he yelled at Lowell to stop being stubborn and told him that he was making Maria uncomfortable. Maria told Jacques that it was fine, and that he was going to try cutting Lowell's hair. That day marked the first time Maria ever saw Lowell cry. Despite being scolded by the Marquis, living in the basement, and facing criticism, Lowell had never cried before, but he was now in tears because Maria had been gone for just one day. As Maria began trimming his hair, she noticed his fear and recalled the Marquis's story about Lowell being abused with a dagger. She had forgotten about it until now. Standing in front of him, she gently suggested starting with his bangs, and assured him that there was nothing to fear, just a trim. As she carefully cut his hair, she frequently asked if he was okay and if it hurt. After their trip, Maria had become something more significant to Lowell. A few days later, Marquis Redford called Maria to his office, and surprised her by asking her to teach Lowell. He explained that previous tutors had left, and he didn't want to reveal Lowell's ignorance to others anymore. Maria expressed her doubts, saying she was young, inexperienced, and not qualified to teach. The Marquis insisted she was the only one Lowell listened to, and that he wouldn't repeat himself. When she told Jacques that she was going to be tutoring Lowell, he said that she didn't have to do anything. She told him that his father requested that she do it because Lowell only listens to her. He thought about it and said that he guesses there is no other choice. She thought that she was a little too concerned at first, but she didn't think it would be difficult to teach Lowell. She had learned a lot before joining the Redford house and could focus on teaching him basic etiquette while brushing up on her own knowledge. She saw it as a chance to gain respect and decided to dedicate herself to the task. Maria poured her energy into teaching Lowell everything she knew, from basic posture and common knowledge, to imperial etiquette, sophisticated speech, and the arts. She taught him with affection and ambition, considering him a special student. Years later, as Lowell had grown into a teenager, he walked into their study, where Maria was gazing out the window, and asked what she was looking at and whether they would be studying that day. During the victory banquet celebrating Lowell's success, the air was filled with congratulatory remarks for Marquis Redford, who humbly downplays the praise by attributing it to Lowell's own efforts. The banquet to celebrate the war victory lasted 10 days, and this grand banquet was entirely dedicated to Lowell. The people at the banquet talk about Maria attending the banquet. They say that she attended as well, and that all members of the Redford family must attend, considering how important the occasion is. Maria hears all this and thinks that she doesn't understand why they are excited when the banquet is meant for Lowell, and it is disgusting. Her head starts to hurt, and she wonders if it is because of her tight corset. Just then, her parents approach her, telling her that she is as beautiful as ever. Her mother holds her, saying that her husband must still be treating her very well, because there is a glow to her, while Maria wonders how her mother thinks that she is doing well when she has been withering away for the past 10 years. She thinks that she knew from the beginning that she had to endure this suffering alone. One night, after another brutal episode with Jacques, Maria lay in bed, wondering how long she must tolerate this, and she thought that she was going to go insane at that rate. The torment had reached a breaking point, and the following year, she decided to confide in her family. She had told her mother that there was a big problem with her marriage. She took off her nightgown and told her mother that she might be distressed by what she was about to see. While doing that, she had only wanted one thing from her mother. She wanted her mother to show genuine concern and console her. When she took off her nightgown, she showed her mother her bruises. Her mother's reaction was one of shock and fear, her trembling hands betraying her distress at the sight of Maria's injuries. Maria had hoped for her family's anger directed at those who had wronged her, and for their support in embracing her wounds. Instead, her mother told her that some men find pleasure in these things, but it doesn't last forever, and she would realize that it is nothing when it all passes. Then she pleaded with Maria to just bear with it until her brothers make advantageous marriages. She knelt in front of Maria, begging, and she told Maria that she knew how things had been hard for their family, so she should please help her brothers so that they would have a chance to succeed too. Maria thought that even though she had taken the surname of the Redford, she still believed she was a daughter of Creth. Then she thought that it had taken her too long to realize that she was nothing but a sacrifice given to the Redford family. In the present, as Maria's mother praises Marquis Redford and Jacques for their generosity and thoughtfulness, Maria's patience wears thin. Overwhelmed, she excuses herself, claiming a headache, and flees from the room. She recalls when her father told her that she shouldn't be coming to their house every time she gets into a fight with her husband, and that she needs to learn to put up with her husband's quirks. She thinks that there is no one she can trust or rely on. As she hurriedly leaves the banquet hall, she collides with someone but doesn't stop to acknowledge it. Corey, who had witnessed her distress, calls out, concerned about Maria's sudden departure. When Maria gets outside, she falls on the floor, and Corey runs to her, asking her if she is alright. Shaking, she holds Corey and Corey hugs her back, telling her that she is here for her so she has nothing to worry about. She also tells Maria that they can return to the manor if she doesn't want to stay at the banquet anymore. Maria, however, pushes Corey away, determined to face her struggles alone. She tells Corey that she is fine and wants to be alone. When Corey still insists on helping her, Maria firmly tells her no. Corey starts to plead with her, and Maria smacks her hand away as she yells, asking her if she looks like an idiot who can't do anything by herself, which shocks Corey. Corey apologizes, and says that she couldn't leave her out there in the cold when she is already so frail. Maria knows that Corey is someone who genuinely cares for her, but she can't rely on her. Maria tells Corey that she doesn't care even if she gets sick from the chill and dies, so she shouldn't have to worry about her. Corey calls out to her and tells Corey not to take one more step. Then she threatens to fire Corey. She takes one more step. As Maria walks away, she thinks that the more she tries to trust someone, the more she ends up getting hurt, and she is done with these false hopes. She staggers to a nearby fountain and sits down, contemplating that there are only 4 days left until Lowell's return. The past 10 years had changed her profoundly, just as Lowell must have changed. Gazing at her reflection in the water, she wonders if Lowell would still find her beautiful when he sees her in her current state. Her mind drifts back to a study session years ago, when she had asked Lowell to draw a kettle, but he refused. Then she told him that he should draw what he liked the most, because that would be less boring. She sat by the window reading while Lowell drew, and when he finished, she saw that he drew a portrait of her, which surprised her. She asked him why he would draw her when she told him to draw the thing he liked the most, and he told her that he liked her the most and that she was beautiful. Unable to look at her reflection any longer, Maria puts her hand in the water, thinking that she is no longer beautiful. She had lost her innocence and brightness, and had become a hollow shell of despair. She is aware that her current state pushes people away, and while she is excited to see Lowell, she is also afraid of facing him as a diminished version of herself. Maria sees a figure approaching her in the dim light of the fountain. Trembling and coughing, she squints to see the person more clearly. To her astonishment, the man resembles Lowell. His wine-colored hair, pumpkin-colored eyes, and the gentleness in his gaze were unmistakable. She wonders if she was hallucinating, as Lowell was not supposed to return for another 4 days. The man, who she thinks looks just like Lowell, drapes his jacket over her. Later, when Corey finds Maria resting on Lowell's shoulder, he puts his hand on his mouth so she won't wake Maria up. After losing consciousness in the garden, Maria is bedridden for a few days. When she wakes up, she asks Corey how long she has been asleep for, and then starts coughing out blood. She thinks that she had a very long dream while she was asleep, and she thinks she met Lowell in it. Then she thinks that she hopes Lowell is like the kind man she saw last night, unlike her, who has become pathetic and cold. The next day, Maria walks through the garden, thinking that she knew that night wasn't a dream, as she recalls a man putting his coat around her, and wonders who he is. Because of the thoughts of the unknown man, the scents of the roses which Maria finds repulsive smelled sweet at that moment. She shakes off her thoughts about the mysterious man and focuses on the current situation. She wonders why Marquis Redford wanted to meet with her privately and if something significant was happening. The Marquis announces that they have arrived as he opens a door to a building and tells her that there is something he wishes to show her. As she follows him, she thinks that this is the Redford family storage facility, and she never knew such a place existed inside the garden. She has lived there for 10 years, yet she never knew of the storage. As she wonders why the Marquis brought her there all of a sudden, he tells her that Lowell is returning that day and that he is a special child to him. Maria thinks to herself that Lowell's special status is due to his recent triumph as a war hero. Stopping in front of a portrait of a beautiful red-haired woman, the Marquis says that Lowell resembles his cousin more than he resembles him. Maria recognizes the woman as Rosario Redford, the daughter of the previous Marquis. She notes that Lowell indeed resembles Rosario, and he inherited more of the Redford blood than it seems, as the Redfords all have red hair, a trait not shared by the Marquis or Jacques. The Marquis says that Rosario always used to say that she would never get married because she didn't want a husband, and he loved that sense of freedom she had. Maria says that she sure misses her a lot, and she would have loved to have met Rosario. It has been 20 years since Rosario went missing, so she is probably not alive anymore. For a moment the Marquis had a strange expression on his face, and he says that surprisingly enough Lowell said the same thing his cousin said, and that Lowell told him not to insist on his marriage. He continues by saying that when Lowell said that it reminded him of Rosario, and they really do resemble each other. Then he holds Maria's shoulder and tells her that he knows Lowell is as stubborn as a mule, but she should please convince him to come to terms with the idea of marriage. Later, during their carriage ride to the Imperial Palace, Maria contemplates on the new responsibilities she has been given, tasked not only with finding Lowell a bride but also with overseeing his marriage. She thinks that it is quite a lot of pressure, but she doesn't mind because there is something else she can focus on besides getting pregnant now. A smile creeps onto her face, which did not go unnoticed by Jacques. Jacques, visibly irritated, asks Maria about her sudden cheerfulness. She tells him not to pick a fight with her, and he responds by saying he is not picking a fight. He is just surprised that she looks happy while putting his finger under her chin. He says that he hasn't seen her smile in ages, and if it is because that B word is coming back and the one who is so special to her. Maria thinks that Jacques has always been this way, and he really despises Lowell. She yanks her hand away from him and she yells at him saying he shouldn't be pathetic, and he tells her that that is no way to speak to a husband. She thinks that Lowell is just an illegitimate child who is younger than Jacques, so she doesn't understand where his animosity is coming from. She pulls her scarf around her neck, telling Jacques that the fact that her husband is inferior to an illegitimate child is humiliating, and she is ashamed of him, which makes Jacques angry. Just then, the footman opens the carriage door and announces that they have arrived at the imperial palace. Maria arranges her hair and she tells Jacques that she doesn't want to walk with him, so he should follow her later, and then steps down from the carriage while Jacques quivers in anger. As the event begins, Maria asks the Marquis about Lowell's whereabouts. Marquis Redford informs her that Lowell is likely to make his entrance with the royal knights. Just then, the emperor shouts, "My knights will have defeated the barbarians, enter," and all the knights, including Lowell, walk in. They all bow before the emperor. When the emperor calls Lowell's name, Maria is struck by the realization that Lowell is indeed the man she saw in the garden. While everyone whispers about how handsome Lowell is, the emperor tells Lowell that they have been freed from threats of the barbarians thanks to him and that they are truly grateful. Then he tells Lowell that because he protected the citizens of this nation from the tyranny of the barbarians, he gladly rewards him with the title and the fiefdom of the Count of Hermain. Maria is astonished, unable to believe that the man she saw was once a neglected child and is now a distinguished hero. Following the ceremony, Lowell approaches Marquis Redford and Maria. The Marquis extends his hand to Lowell, congratulating him on his return. Lowell, smiling, expresses his gratitude for the Marquis's support. Then the Marquis pushes Maria forward and asks Lowell if he would like to say something to her too. She looks at him thinking that she is sure he is the one she saw in the garden that night. She wonders what Lowell was doing there when she heard that the knights arrived that day. She tells Lowell that she is glad that he is back, and he smiles at her and says that he is glad to see her again. He reaches out to hug her, but Jacques yells his name and blocks him. Then he grips Lowell's hand. Jacques pulls Lowell into a hug, as he calls him little brother and saying it's been way too long. Lowell asks him, asking if he is worried. Jacques stands beside Maria and says that he and Maria are both concerned. He pulls Maria close and adds that they even prayed for Lowell's safe return. Lowell smiles, saying he wants to come back and see Maria again. Maria starts to respond, but Jacques cuts in with a smirk, saying it's only natural. After all, Maria practically raised him. He then wraps the scarf around Maria's neck as he continues by saying to Lowell that he might cause a misunderstanding if he continues to pay too much attention to his wife when people are around, and he thinks that Lowell might have a lot to learn about high society after the many years he spent fighting barbarians. Then, turning to Maria, he sweetly tells her she left her scarf in the carriage. Lowell just shrugs, completely unfazed, and casually remarks that those misunderstandings wouldn't exactly be wrong, which makes Jacques bristle with irritation. Leaning in, Lowell whispers that after so long on the battlefield, he might say things without thinking. Then, without missing a beat, he turns to Maria and asks her to dance. She happily agrees, but Jacques tries to stop her, saying she looks too frail to be overexerting herself. Maria slaps his hand away and marches off with Lowell, saying that she didn't come all this way just to sit out dancing. Besides, Jacques knows full well how improper that would be in high society. He has no choice but to glare after them while his father watches in silence. As Maria and Lowell dance, she takes a good look at him and smiles, noting how much he has grown. It's hard to believe the little boy she raised is now a man. Then, narrowing her eyes, she asks if he was the one she saw at the palace earlier and if he returned before the others. He tells her that he came back on horseback, riding as fast as he could without stopping to eat or rest. Maria frowns, clearly worried, and asks why he would do that. Instead of answering, Lowell suddenly lifts her into the air before setting her back down. Maria huffs, telling him to stop playing around, but he just grins and says she's as strict as ever. When she presses him again for an answer, he finally admits that he just wanted to return as soon as possible. His hands rest on her waist as he looks at her earnestly, saying she's the only thing he's been longing to see. Then, without hesitation, he pulls her into a hug. The guests gasp, their whispers spreading like wildfire. Some immediately assume there's something going on between Maria and Lowell. Jacques Redford, however, shuts down the gossip with a sharp reminder: Maria was Lowell's tutor. The murmuring dies down, and people shift to softer, kinder remarks, saying Maria must be overjoyed to see Lowell after all these years. That night, Lowell returns to the family manor, and while the Marquis and Jacques put on a show of welcoming him with open arms, he knows better. Days later, Maria sits quietly as Corey applies ointment to her bruises, while thinking that it's been days since Jacques left home. He's never stayed away this long just because he was angry, no matter how many arguments they've had or how many harsh words she's thrown at him. She concludes that he is probably with Katerina. Who else would he go to? Katerina is beautiful, the kind of woman who likely has many clients. Maria can't understand how she puts up with Jacques' particular tastes. Does it not hurt? Can she truly endure something that Maria couldn't? Jacques had accused her of being weak, of failing at something that anyone else could handle. Maybe he was right. Corey finishes helping her get ready for bed and mentions that she left Maria's robe by the candles before heading out. Alone, Maria stares at the flickering flame, thoughts spiraling. She hates Jacques. She truly does. But the idea of him with another woman makes her feel utterly humiliated. Her fingers twitch as she reaches toward the fire, wishing everything would just burn away. Before she can touch the flame, Lowell knocks, while already stepping inside. She snatches her robe and slips it on quickly as he walks toward her. Annoyed, she tells him he should knock before entering and asks what he would have done if she had been changing. Lowell smirks, setting down his candle. Says she looks fully dressed unfortunately. Maria glares, warning him not to joke like that with an unmarried lady. He cocks his head, amused, and asks if that means it's fine to joke like that with her. She starts to protest, reminding him that she's married, but he cuts her off before she can finish. His fingers brush her damp hair as he notes that she just had a bath. He says she's wet, and she smells nice. Maria flinches at Lowell's touch, and he immediately notices how much thinner she looks. His gaze drifts downward, catching sight of the bruises scattered across her chest. Before he can say anything, she quickly pulls her robe tighter, hiding it from view, and he apologizes for what he said. She shifts the conversation, commenting on how rough his hands have become. He glances at his palms and says it's from wielding swords and taking lives. He sits on her bed like he used to when he was a child, tapping the empty space beside him and telling her to sit. Maria hesitates but eventually joins him. She starts talking about how he has been away for so long, how he needs stability now that he's back. But he isn't really listening. His eyes are fixed on her, watching her so intently that she finally stops and asks what's wrong. Instead of answering directly, he asks how things are between her and Jacques. Maria turns away, lying that she and Jacques are fine. Lowell doesn't believe her. He bluntly asks if Jacques is still a pervert, and her patience snaps. She sharply tells him not to talk about that. But he doesn't back down, pressing further, asking if Jacques still hurts her. Maria angrily tells him this isn't something for him to ask, and he gently takes her hand. Despite the way her heart races, she forces herself to stay calm. She tells him that he's unintentionally crossing a line, that they were close when he was young, but now that he's an adult, people will misunderstand if he keeps treating her the same way. Lowell stands, still holding her hand, and his expression shifts. He talks about the war, how terrible it was, how survival was his only goal every single day. As he speaks, he steps closer, pressing her back against the wall. His voice lowers as he admits that there was one thought, one desperate, relentless need that consumed him. He made himself a promise: if he came back alive, he would take what he wished for, no matter what. Maria asks him what he wished for. He smiles, brushing a finger over her lips, and says that the answer is exactly what she warned him against. She notices how his touch is both gentle and firm. His fingers slip beneath the strap of her nightgown, sliding it slightly off her shoulder. He murmurs that no matter how much Jacques hurts her, no matter how many wounds he leaves on her body, she is still the same to him. Still beautiful. She feels his excitement. He tells her not to be nervous and presses a lingering kiss on her hand. Then adds that he won't do anything she doesn't want. He carries her and gently places her on her bed. He tells her to sleep well and then leaves the room. Maria's face burns as she wonders how Lowell could be so bold. No one has ever flirted with her like that before, and she never imagined hearing such words, let alone feeling this way because of them. Is she nervous? Is it desire? At this point, they might as well be the same thing. Her mind keeps drifting back to him, to his touch, his voice, the way he looked at her. She gives in to the thoughts, letting them take over for just a moment. But afterward, reality crashes down on her. Tears well up as she buries her face in her hands, feeling ridiculous. This is insane. She must be losing her mind. The next morning, Maria complains about her dry skin and puffy eyes while Corey reassures her that a little makeup will fix everything. As Corey helps her get ready, Maria silently scolds herself for losing her mind last night. She needs to snap out of it, there's work to do. Lowell will be heading to his fiefdom in a few days, and before he leaves, she needs to find him a potential bride. Determined, she visits Countess Raold, the best matchmaker in noble society. She apologizes to Countess Raold for not visiting sooner, explaining that she's been busy. The Countess says she understands, as she can only imagine how busy Maria must be now that her brother-in-law is home. She even mentions hearing that Lowell sees Maria as a sister. Maria knows exactly what's happening. Countess Raold, like every noble in the capital, loves a juicy story. Nothing is as interesting to these nobles as what goes on in House Redford. Everyone had thought that Jacques would surely be the successor until Lowell arrived and made everything unclear. Also, Maria's relationship with Lowell has piqued their interest as well. But Maria doesn't have time for their gossip. Let them think whatever they want. She simply tells the Countess that Lowell does see her as a sister, which is why she's here to find him a suitable wife. She needs the Countess's expertise. Countess Raold claps her hands, summoning a servant to bring her a list of eligible women. For the next few hours, Maria combs through the names with the Countess, discussing backgrounds, beauty, and family status. But on the carriage ride home, she finds herself frowning. None of them feel good enough. No matter how stunning they are, none of them match Lowell's beauty. No matter how refined, none of them compare to his achievements. And marrying into a powerful family would only bring him complications, yet, one way or another, he has to marry one of them. Just then, Maria spots Jacques walking arm in arm with a red-haired woman, and her stomach twists. She bangs on the carriage, yelling for it to stop. The moment it does, she jumps out and rushes after him, telling herself she must be mistaken. It can't be Jacques. Then she sees them. Jacques and Katerina, wrapped up in each other, kissing without a care in the world. Her heart pounds as she quickly hides, breath shallow. She already knew about Katerina, so why does it feel like a knife in her chest? Katerina clings to Jacques, laughing as she tells him to hurry and take her inside. Maria thinks that Katerina looks so happy, almost like Katerina is mocking her. Like Maria's happiness never even existed. Her fingers twitch, stretching out toward them. A firm grip pulls her back. Lowell stands beside her, calm as ever, telling her to relax. She asks what he's doing there, but he only brushes a strand of hair from her face, as he says her hair is a mess, and he thinks it will be better if she lets it down. She suddenly becomes aware of where they are. The courtesan district. The thought that Lowell might be here for a woman too makes her stomach churn. Then she thinks that he is no different from other men. She demands an answer again, and he asks her if she's mad at him. Then he finally explains that their father sent him to bring Jacques back before the rumors get worse. He asks if she thought he was here to meet a lady, and assures her he isn't like other men. Maria doesn't respond and turns back toward the carriage. Lowell follows, asking if she's leaving already. She tells him that she will leave since he is there and that he should make sure he carries out his father's orders. He asks her if she wants him to come with her. When she doesn't answer, he steps closer and asks if she's afraid. She asks him what she is afraid of, and he says that she is afraid that she will lose her husband to another woman. Maria responds by saying that her afraid of losing Jacques is the most laughable thing she has ever heard. Lowell asks her if it is tough to watch Jacques fool around with a courtesan. When she snaps at him, he says Jacques may be a pervert, but a husband is still a husband. He steps closer to her as she tells him that he got it all wrong. Lowell reaches for her hand and tells her to come with him and prove it. She doesn't want to. She knows it will tear her apart, but refusing means admitting he's right. So she lets him lead her inside. They stop in front of Katerina's room, and Lowell cracks the door open just enough for the sounds inside to spill out, moans and laughter, Jacques and Katerina lost in their own world. Lowell tilts his head, listening, then he asks if she can hear it. He calls Jacques and Katerina a pair of beasts, tangled together. Jacques unchains Katerina, and for a moment, she thinks he's finished. But he's not. He ties her hands behind her back, shoves her off the bed, and tells her to worship him. Her bruised body trembles, but she obeys, kissing his feet and calling him master, begging him to break her completely. Maria has heard enough. She turns on her heel and walks away, muttering that they're both insane. Lowell follows her into the night, reaching out, but she slaps his hand away, snapping at him not to touch her. Then, just her luck, her heel snaps, and she crashes onto the ground. Frustrated, she slams her hands against the cobblestones and screams in pure, unfiltered anger. Why does she have to suffer this humiliation? Why does she have to see any of this? She yells that she can't take it anymore. Lowell apologizes to her, saying it is his fault. Maria thinks that it is not his fault. She was the one who chose to listen. She sighs, thinking that by now, Lowell must see it, she's not the same Maria he once knew. He should stop being so nice to her. Lowell suddenly pulls her into a hug. She stiffens and then asks if he still thinks she's pretty. He doesn't hesitate. He tells her she's beautiful. She scoffs, saying he only liked the old her. Lowell says he likes her, all of her, and nothing has changed. He doesn't understand why she keeps putting herself down when she's still so breathtaking. But Maria doesn't believe him. Instead, she stares at him for a moment before asking if he wants to be with her. He confirms that he wants to, and then he asks why they shouldn't when his dear brother is busy warming someone else's bed. After that, Lowell carries her up the stairs of the Redford house and into her room. As he sets her down, he asks if she's nervous. She says no, and he says that he knows that he is being insistent, but he won't do it if she says no. Maria tells him that she doesn't love him, and Lowell simply says that it is unfortunate she doesn't feel the same way. She holds him as she says that she doesn't want revenge. She doubts Jacques would even care. But still, she wants to mock him in any way she can. So she pulls Lowell closer. Lowell tells her to go ahead, to use him however she wants. She warns that if anyone finds out, they'll both be banished from the family. He doesn't care. He asks if she really thinks that matters to him when she already knows the family has practically abandoned him. Then he asks her if she will tell him if she ever falls in love with him in the process of using him. As things progress, he promises to never hurt her. Lowell kisses her forehead and asks if she's scared. She shivers but quickly brushes it off. What's there to be afraid of? This is what she wanted, after all. No backing out now. They kiss, but her mind wanders. She's heard soldiers often spend time with paid women while away at war. Has Lowell done the same? She asks, half expecting the answer to frustrate her. He's a grown man, of course, he has. But to her surprise, and relief, he says he's only read about it in books. That makes her grin. She says if that's the case, she might as well take the lead, she was his tutor once. She flips him onto his back, ready to teach him. But he's a quick learner, maybe too quick. When she points it out, he smirks and reminds her she's not his tutor anymore. Years ago, Maria was taught that intimacy between a husband and wife was natural, something to be cherished. She didn't really get it at the time, but she was assured she would understand one day. When she came of age, Jacques gave her flowers and congratulated her like it was some grand achievement. On the night she was finally supposed to be with him, she was focused on looking perfect, choosing the right dress, the right fragrance, and preparing for the moment. Meanwhile, Lowell, still a boy back then, kept begging her to play with him. She ignored him at first, but he was relentless. Eventually, she suggested hide and seek, knowing he'd be entertained for a while. He eagerly agreed, running off to find a hiding spot while she returned to her preparations. Later that night, she sat on the bed with Jacques, nervous but trusting. When he asked if she was scared, she admitted she was, just a little. He reassured her that it would be fine but then mentioned something odd. He said that when they were together, it might hurt, and that was just how he was. Maria, young and naive, assumed he meant what she'd been told before, that a woman's first time could be painful. So she nodded, saying she trusted him. But then, instead of staying in the bedroom, he took her hand and led her to a locked room she had never entered before. He told her he had a surprise, something to make the experience more interesting. When he opened the door, she froze. The room was filled with things she didn't understand, strange objects lining the shelves, neatly arranged like an eerie collection. He told her to pick one, whichever caught her eye. Maria had never read about anything like this before. She hesitated, unsure of what to choose, but Jacques, as confident as ever, told her they needed to strike a balance, nothing too extreme, but nothing too mild either. Their first night together had to be perfect since they had waited a long time for this. He picked up a paddle, smacked it against his palm, and smirked. While Maria looked scared. After that, he told her that in bed, she needed his permission for everything. Then he fell silent. Maria, blindfolded, could only hear the rain tapping against the windows. She called his name, reaching out, but found only empty air. A loud crack of thunder made her flinch. Then, a hand touched her. She felt a brief wave of relief. Finally, he was there. But something was wrong. The touch was different, rougher. Not like Jacques' gentle touch. Panic set in. She pushed the hand away, yanking off her blindfold, and demanded to know where Jacques was. He asked who had given her permission to take it off. Then he said that she forgot the one thing he taught her, and a disobedient child needed to be punished. He cuffed her to the bed, promising to go easy on her since it was her first time, and then blindfolded her again. Maria's voice wavered as she told him she didn't like this, that she was scared. Jacques responded, telling her that from then on, she wasn't allowed to say things like that. With him, she had to obey completely. No exceptions. Then he started biting her, hard enough to leave marks. She squirmed, pulling at the cuffs, pleading for him to stop. But he didn't. Desperate, she kept struggling, and in the process, her blindfold shifted just enough for her to catch a glimpse of the closet. And there, hidden inside, was Lowell. He was watching. Maria went still. Jacques misunderstood her sudden stillness, assuming she had finally given in. He ran his fingers over her cheek and told her to stop crying. The night was still young. That night, Maria's nervousness had turned into pain. And that pain had turned into shame. For years, she carried that shame, never expecting to feel anything different. But last night, with Lowell, had been warm. It had been satisfying. Sitting at dinner the next evening, she couldn't help but smile at the memory. Lowell had gone to the Imperial Palace again, and she found herself wondering when he would return. Meanwhile, across the table, Marquis Redford spoke to Jacques, noting how long it had been since he last came home, and that he can't remember the last time they had dinner together. Jacques apologizes to his father for his absence. Marquis Redford asks him if the girl he has been seeing is Katerina and tells him to end things with her. He continues by saying that Jacques is a Redford, and courtesans are not allowed. He also says that Maria has been kind enough to turn a blind eye to Jacques' deficiencies, so he should be respectful. Maria knows Marquis Redford didn't actually care about Jacques' twisted preferences. He only cared about protecting the family's reputation. And Jacques, if he wanted to inherit the title, he would have no choice but to listen. She notices the way Jacques clenches his knife. Marquez Redford says that Jacques shouldn't tell him that he loves Katerina. Jacques slams the knife on the table and announces that Katerina is pregnant with his child. Maria storms into her room, Jacques' words still ringing in her head. How much longer is he going to humiliate her? Jacques barges in, completely ignoring Corey, who tries to stop him, insisting that Maria is asleep. Maria asks Jacques if he didn't hear what Corey said. She tells him to get out, and he shouldn't barge into other people's rooms. He brushes off her irritation, saying they are married. She shoots back, saying they are married on paper, but they haven't shared a room in ages. That doesn't seem to matter to him. He steps closer, acting as if everything is perfectly normal, and says paper or not, they are still married, so she still needs to fulfill her duties as a wife. Then, as if she isn't already fed up with him, he tells her she will be raising Katerina's child as her own. She reappoints by saying that it is like he was born to make her life miserable. Jacques says the Redfords carry the blood of demons, and demons aren't meant to make people happy. What a convenient excuse for his awfulness. He tells her that they will both raise Katerina's child, and that is what his father wants too. She is supposed to raise the child, love it as her own, and make sure it becomes the rightful heir of House Redford. She has heard enough. Pushing him away, she tells him to do whatever he wants. She says they are even now. He has found comfort elsewhere, and so has she. He has no one to blame but himself. The next night, a party is held for Lowell and his fellow knights. The place is packed with women eager to meet him. Maria casually scans the crowd, thinking that she should maybe pick one for him. Something strange keeps happening, though. Every time she asks one of the knights, who was in the war with Lowell, if they are close to Lowell, they all give the same answer, no. It makes her wonder if he is an outcast. It wouldn't be surprising, considering he is known as the rejected son of House Redford. Still, the thought nags at her. If even his comrades keep their distance, how in the world has he managed to survive the battlefield? She finds a drunk knight, Jack, who tells her that Lowell was brutal. He says their division was once called the Sword of the Hawk, but after Lowell became captain, it was renamed the Sword of the Wolf. Apparently, the way he fought, the way he decapitated enemies, made him seem more like a bloodthirsty beast than a man. Jack mutters that he's never met anyone as terrifying as Lowell. Before Maria can react, Lowell's voice cuts through the air, telling Jack that he is talking too much again, making Jack jolt upright. His entire demeanor changes in an instant. He quickly salutes, bows, and practically flees. Lowell says that Jack was one of the men who used to look down on him. He completely changed after he became captain. He tells Maria not to believe a word Jack said. They step onto the balcony, and Maria tells Lowell that to her, he still feels like the same boy from years ago, so it is interesting to hear that he is a feared superior to others. Lowell tells her she's the only one who still sees him as a child. She acknowledges that he's earned his title, and says that maybe one day he will inherit the Redford title too. He says that Jacques would have to be removed from the family for that to happen, and she says wistfully that if Jacques loses everything, she will be able to start over. Lowell asks if she would leave Jacques and come to him. Before she can answer, Marquez Redford appears with a noble and his daughter, calling Lowell. Maria steps aside, telling Lowell to go. He hesitates before leaving, telling her not to go anywhere. Inside, the ballroom is filled with noblewomen admiring Lowell from afar. One of them goes to Maria and gushes about how perfect he is, handsome, distant, impossible to approach, which only makes him more desirable. Maria, without thinking, says Lowell is just shy with strangers but is as open as a child with her. The moment she says it, she regrets it. It feels immature, petty even. She excuses herself, claiming she needs some air. Lowell, still caught in conversation, notices Maria slipping away and doesn't hesitate to follow. When he gets outside, he calls out to her. Instead of stopping, she simply smiles at him and keeps running. Lowell chases after Maria, calling her name, but she only laughs and keeps running until her ankle twists beneath her. She stumbles, but before she can hit the ground, Lowell catches her. The momentum sends them both tumbling onto the grass, with her landing right on top of him. She keeps laughing, and he asks her why she is laughing. He scolds her, saying she could have seriously hurt herself. She tells him he was there to catch her. He asks why she turned away so coldly when she saw him earlier. Instead of answering, she says it's been a long time since she last ran like that, since she was a child. She rolls to the floor, reminding him that he's the star of the banquet, and people will come looking for him if he suddenly disappears. As much fun as this is, they should be careful. But before she can say anything else, he leans over her, his hand pressing into the grass beside her head. His tone shifts as he demands to know why she didn't stop when she knew he was chasing her. She notices that his mood has become intense, and asks him what is wrong. He mutters that Jack ran his mouth, said things he shouldn't have, and that maybe he should have eliminated him when he had the chance. Maria studies him, realizing that the battlefield's madness still lingers in him. But instead of feeling afraid, she reaches up and gently touches his hand. He flinches at the tenderness of it, and she presses a soft kiss to his palm. That's all it takes. Lowell leans down, capturing her lips in a deep kiss. She thinks that she had no one until he came back to her. When he finally pulls away, he apologizes, saying he lost control. She doesn't let him go far. Instead, she pulls him right back and murmurs that he can have her however he wants. Then she asks if he would prefer to undress her himself or if she should do it. The banquet continues inside, but out here, it doesn't exist. They lose themselves in each other. Just as things start to escalate, a rustling sound comes from the bushes. Lowell immediately covers her with his coat, eyes scanning the darkness. When he doesn't see anyone, he assumes it is just the wind. Satisfied, he turns back to her, whispering that he loves her and wants her to love him too. As they get dressed, Maria notices the thin scratches on Lowell's skin, a faint trail of red where her nails had dug in. Before she can apologize, he only smiles, saying it's proof of how desperately she wants him and that he hopes the marks don't fade too soon. She tells him to go inside and change before the Marquis notices. He brushes off her concern, buttoning up her blouse with careful fingers, reminding her that he's more than capable of handling these things himself now. Before letting her go, he presses a soft kiss to her forehead and tells her to rest well, calling her his love. As she makes her way to her room, Maria wonders just how many times she's heard the word love today. She remembers Lowell's telling her to tell him if she ever falls in love with him, and wonders if that day ever come. She sighs, pushing the thought aside as she enters her room. Something feels off. The window is open, but she doesn't remember leaving it that way. Shrugging it off, she walks over to close it, humming to herself as she starts undoing her blouse. Then she sees it, a reflection in the mirror. Jacques. She startles, spinning around to find him sitting on her bed, casually holding an empty wine glass. He asks her where she has been, squeezing the wine glass so hard that it cracks, and then he suddenly shouts, demanding to know how long she's been sneaking around with another man. Before she can react, he hurls the glass at the mirror behind her. It shatters with a deafening crash, and Maria yelps in shock. Corey, standing outside, hears her scream. Maria's heart pounds, but she lifts her chin, boldly asking if he saw her with Lowell and if that is why he's acting like this. Jacques' eyes burn with fury. He accuses her of having no shame, spitting out that she dared to do that in his manor, his garden. Before she can react, he grabs her and slams her against the wall, saying she did it with Lowell, who he calls the B word instead. Maria doesn't back down. She coldly tells Jacques that he has nothing, not yet, at least. The manor isn't his unless he becomes Marquis, and there's a real chance he might lose that title to an illegitimate child. The words hit their mark, and Jacques' face twists with fury. Snarling, he grabs her and growls that she belongs to him. His hands move to her skirt, but she struggles, disgusted, thinking that he did the same thing. He never even tried to hide what he did with other women, and now he dares to act possessive. He demands she beg for forgiveness, but she shoves him back with all her strength. Looking him dead in the eye, she spits out that she liked being with Lowell. He's younger, stronger, and actually cares about pleasing her, unlike Jacques, who only knows how to take by force. Jacques snaps. He grabs her roughly, crushing his lips against hers. Before things can go any further, a knock sounds at the door. Corey's voice rings out, calm but firm, informing Jacques that the Marquis wants to see him. Maria glares at him and tells him he should listen to his father, unless he wants to lose to his brother. Jacques releases her, telling her to wash her filthy body before he returns. As he steps outside, he demands to know why the Marquis wants him at this hour. Corey only says it's urgent. Straightening his clothes, Jacques heads off, completely missing the sharp glare Corey gives him. The next morning, Maria sits across from Marquis Redford at breakfast, noticing Jacques is nowhere to be seen. Curious, she asks if something happened. Swirling his wine, the Marquis casually states that Katerina died in a carriage accident last night. The horse suddenly went wild, and the carriage crashed. Maria stares, stunned. Was that normal? Something about it feels off. Her mind drifts to the former Marquis and his wife, both lost to a sudden and unexpected carriage accident that some whispered was no accident at all. She shakes off the thought. This isn't the same. Katerina was just a courtesan, not a political figure. Still, it explains why Jacques never came back last night. He must have rushed to see her. The Marquis sets his glass down and says that Katerina tricked Jacques. When they examined her body, there was nothing, her womb was empty. He says that Jacques had been a fool to believe her, and now, the Marquis assures Maria that he will take care of everything. There's no need for her to worry. Then, almost as an afterthought, he brings up Lowell's territory, which was granted to him by the king, saying that managing it will be difficult for someone with no experience, so he wants Maria to go and help Lowell. Maria immediately finds the request strange. Managing a lord's estate is the lord's responsibility. A wife manages the castle, yes, but Lowell doesn't have a wife. The Marquis has no real authority to send her there. She asks if Lowell actually requested her help. The Marquis smiles, gripping the back of her chair. Yes, he tells her, and Lowell trusts and respects her far more than he ever expected. Corey helps Maria get ready to visit Lowell, and Maria is practically buzzing with excitement. She checks herself out in the mirror and wonders if the dress is a bit too revealing up top. Corey says it's pretty much the noble lady standard these days. Maria then turns to check the back, which is wide open, and thinks it might be a bit much, but hey, it looks great and she wants to impress Lowell, so who cares? She decides to go with the dress, and Corey grins, saying she looks happier than ever. While Corey is doing her hair, she mentions she's never seen Maria this hyped before. Maria laughs and says it's been forever since she felt this way. When Maria arrives at Lowell's place, she's welcomed by his super polite staff and his butler, Kellone. As she walks through the castle, she notes that the servants are extremely well trained and the castle is clean, even though it was unoccupied for a long time. Even the land outside looked great too, well farmed and healthy. She'd been excited to roll up her sleeves and whip the place into shape, but with everything already running smoothly, she's low-key bummed there's nothing to fix. She asks where Lowell is, and Kellone says the count will be a little late. She's about to ask more, but just then, Lowell shows up, dressed to impress. He apologizes for the wait, says he was making preparations, and when she asks about the fancy outfit, he gets all shy and says she's his first guest. Then he nervously asks if he looks okay, which makes her laugh. He thanks her for coming, offers his hand like a gentleman, and asks if she'll let him show her around. She agrees, calling him Count Hermain, his new title, with a playful smile. During the tour, she says she can't wait to see what he's got planned, and he tells her to stop treating him like a kid. She calls him adorable, kisses him on the cheek, and thanks him for dressing up just for her. He shows her the room she'll be staying in, done up with all the popular noble lady styles, then leads her to the dining room, where there's a whole feast waiting. He pulls out her chair, tells her she's gotten too skinny while they were apart, and hopes she feels at home in his castle. Then he feeds her a strawberry, and she says it's tasty, but she's craving something else. She tugs him closer, hinting at what she wants. He asks what it is so he can get it for her right away, and she slides her hand down with a smirk, saying it's already right there. Lowell catches on fast, lifts her onto the table, and, well, they take dessert to a whole new level. When they're done, Lowell leans back and says he still can't believe he gets to touch her whenever he wants. Maria laughs and teasingly asks if that's not the whole reason he dragged her out to his castle. He grins and admits it's part of the reason, but not the only one. He feeds her another strawberry and tells her he wants her to really enjoy herself here. He says she should act like the lady of the castle, make a mess, boss the servants around, do whatever she pleases. Then, without missing a beat, he scoops her up and takes her to his bedroom for round 2. The next few days are basically a dream. They lounge around the castle wearing nothing but their skin, eating and drinking like there's no tomorrow. When Maria jokingly says she might get drunk just from the smell of wine, Lowell goes all in and fills an entire bathtub with wine. She laughs and tells him he shouldn't waste the fancy stuff like this, but he just shrugs and says he'll buy more, for her, always for her, as he helps her into the tub. Then he asks her why she thinks he decorated the entire castle the way he did. He says it's all for her. Everything is hers, including him. He promises to give her whatever she wants, and Maria can't help but think that this man might just be the most hopelessly romantic person alive. They end up doing it again, this time surrounded by wine and roses. The next day, they're getting frisky out on the balcony when Maria suddenly spots a carriage pulling up, and it's Jacques. Her eyes go wide, and she hurriedly tells Lowell to stop, but he seems completely unfazed, like being caught by his brother is no big deal at all. Maria pleads with Lowell to stop as Jacques steps out of his carriage and heads inside, but Lowell keeps going like nothing's wrong. Later, when they finally get dressed, she asks if he saw Jacques. He casually says yeah, he saw him, and that Jacques already knows about them. No big deal. When Maria meets Jacques, he wraps her in a hug, calling her beautiful and smiling like a doting husband. She's caught off guard and asks what he's doing there. She didn't expect him to show up, especially since she figured he'd be too busy mourning Katerina to care. She also reminds him that it was his father, Marquis Redford, who sent her here to help manage Lowell's territory. Jacques puts his arm around her shoulders as they sit, saying his father told him everything. She asks why he still came, and he shoots back, asking if it's strange for a husband to want to see his wife, squeezing her shoulder a little too tightly. Then he leans in, voice low, asking if he came somewhere he shouldn't have. He turns to Lowell, all mock innocent, and asks if he's not allowed to visit. Lowell says Jacques is more than welcome, and even invites him to stay the night since it's getting late. He's about to call a servant to prepare a room, but Jacques cuts in, pulling Maria closer, saying he'll be sharing a room with his wife. Maria tries to push him off, but he stops her with a whisper in her ear. He says if she wants the whole castle to witness the two brothers fighting over her, then she's welcome to make a scene. Maria, already feeling lightheaded and overwhelmed, glances at the nearby servants. With a heavy heart, she tells Lowell to let Jacques have his way. As soon as they step into the room, Jacques slams her against the wall. He demands to know if she and Lowell have been enjoying a cozy little honeymoon while he was away. She snaps back that he's been doing the exact same thing with a courtesan. That sets him off. He shoves her onto the bed and starts lashing out, angry, violent, bitter. He yells that if it weren't for him, she would have been married off to some broke nobody. Then he starts wrecking the room, even hurting himself in the process, while continuing to lash out at her. It doesn't stop until Lowell bursts in and smashes something over Jacques' head. He grabs his brother and starts beating him senseless. And just like that, Maria's mind drifts 16 years back, to the first night she spent with Jacques. He had fallen asleep beside her, peaceful as ever, while she lay there bruised and broken. The only reason she didn't fall apart completely was because of someone who wasn't even supposed to be there. She had heard a splash and turned just in time to see a much younger Lowell, standing there with a flower vase raised high, ready to strike Jacques. She told him to stop, that he was a good boy, and he didn't need to do this. But Lowell, eyes brimming with tears and rage, asked why he shouldn't when Jacques had hurt her. Why she was protecting him. Then he slowly lowered the vase and said, almost to himself, that maybe it was because he was too weak too weak to protect her from his own brother. As Lowell keeps pounding Jacques, Maria shouts for him to stop and tells him to let his brother go. Lowell freezes mid-punch, his face twisted with anger, and argues that Jacques hurt her. Maria says she knows, but Lowell isn't done. He reminds her that Jacques broke her heart too. She nods again, quietly. Then he asks the big question, why is she standing up for him? She doesn't say it out loud, but her mind is racing. If Lowell injures Jacques, there's no hiding it. Everyone will know. The gossip would spread like wildfire. Count Hermain beats his own brother bloody. His reputation would take a serious hit. She's not doing this for Jacques. She's doing it for Lowell. And with the noise they're making, it's only a matter of time before the servants show up. She needs to get him calm, now. She looks him in the eye and says firmly that he can't hurt Jacques. If he does, she won't forgive him. That hits home. Lowell lets go immediately. Then, with her voice low and steady, she tells him she's leaving in the morning. The next day, Maria and Jacques are ready to go. He heads to his carriage, and she walks toward hers. Just as she's about to step in, Lowell appears and stops her. He begs her not to leave, apologizing for losing control and promising to do better, to be better. He says he'll listen next time. But Maria gently removes his hand from her shoulder, and tells him they should talk once things settle down. He still doesn't move, so she calls him her obedient boy, knowing exactly how to calm him. It works. She tells him he needs to learn patience, though deep down, she wishes she could stay. She wishes she could forget everything and just live in this perfect little bubble with him. Lowell drops to his knees in front of her, asking if she's going to abandon him. She says no. He asks if she'll come back. She says yes. Will she keep seeing him? She tells him she'll try her best. Then, softly, he asks her if she loves him. Maria pauses. Their relationship started with her own selfishness and need for revenge. She wants to be near him, but is that love? She's not sure. So she tells him she'll answer that question the next time they meet. She won't lie to him with pretty promises. The more real and innocent his love is, the more afraid she is of ruining it. And then she leaves, leaving Lowell kneeling in the dust behind her. A few minutes later, inside the moving carriage, Maria turns to Corey and admits that she might actually go through with a divorce. Just then, the carriage stops. Jacques appears at the door. She asks if he has something to say, and Corey, sensing the tension, steps out to give them space. Maria looks at Jacques and asks if he's here to throw a tantrum about yesterday. But to her surprise, he kneels down in front of her. He says he'll forget everything that happened, if only she won't go back to Lowell. He starts to say she can be with anyone else, just not Lowell, but stops himself, then apologizes. Then he asks if she remembers how good things were, back before they ever started sharing a room. Jacques says he really did try to fix things between them, but nothing worked. He even considered getting help, especially when he saw how Maria avoided him, how afraid she was. But he never went through with it. His excuse? His father. He couldn't risk rumors spreading about the heir of House Redford being unstable. Maria doesn't let that slide. She tells him flatly that it's not an excuse. That hits a nerve. Jacques snaps, yelling at her. He asks if she ever tried. If she ever looked at him without disgust. He says she treated him like garbage, like he was beneath her, that she never once tried to understand him. Then he throws in the real dagger. He says she's just like his father. Then he starts spilling. As a kid, he lived in fear of their father's punishments. Every little mistake brought pain, but he didn't hate it, not as much as the cold silence that came with being ignored. That hurt more. And through all of it, he told himself it was love, because the alternative was worse. He grabs Maria's hand too tightly and pleads. Says everything is his fault, but begs her to see him. To at least pretend to try. Maria bites her lips in anger as she thinks that it is already too late. Part of her wishes he hadn't told her he was abused. That way, she could resent him without regret. She had hated him all these years because he hurt and defiled her. She wonders if he thinks apologizing now will wash away all those years of hatred, and if his apology is even sincere. She asks if she's supposed to do whatever he wants, like the courtesan did. If she should just keep enduring, how is that any different from the past? And why now? Why the sudden change? Is it just because he lost the woman and child he loved? That question cuts deep. Jacques shouts back that the whole pregnancy thing was a lie. Katerina was never pregnant. He made it up. He thought if Maria believed that, she'd feel something again. Maybe want him again. He admits it was cruel. He just wanted to hurt her. Maria stares at him, stunned. He lied about that, to his father, no less. She can't believe it. Then she asks him if he loved Katerina, and thinks that Jacques wasn't obsessively in love with Katerina, but she guesses he did feel a tiny bit of love for Katerina. Jacques doesn't answer. He just looks away, silent. Maria stretches out her foot in front of him and asks him if he can kiss her foot if he is genuinely sorry. Jacques asks how the heir to House Redford could ever stoop to something so degrading. Maria drops her foot, saying she knew he'd never do it, because keeping his pride intact always came first. That's why he never once gave up anything for her. Then she leans in and twists the knife, reminding him that it wouldn't look great if word got out that the esteemed successor of House Redford got his face rearranged by his illegitimate little brother. She gets close enough for her words to sting and tells him flat out, she'll never forgive him. In her heart, she thinks Lowell would have kissed her foot without hesitation. A few days pass, and Maria's back in her usual routine, though everything feels duller. She lies on her bed, staring at nothing, thinking about the time she spent with Lowell. It all feels distant, like something out of a dream. She wonders what he's doing now. Her thoughts drift back to that moment in the carriage after she told Jacques she'd never forgive him. He had snapped, called her delusional, and asked if she seriously believed Lowell would ever marry her after a divorce. He told her she'd end up a lonely, miserable woman with no one left. Even now, she knows he only said those things out of spite, but that doesn't mean he was completely wrong. Sure, Lowell is in love with her now, but how long will that last? Corey pulls her out of her spiral by announcing that the bath is ready. Maria says she'll go later, which gets a raised eyebrow, Maria turning down a bath. That's a first. Maria admits she just doesn't feel like doing anything. Corey nudges her to get ready anyway, saying they're expecting a guest. Later, as Corey helps her in the bath, Maria starts reminiscing. She brings up how long Corey has worked with her. Corey smiles, remembering how she used to be the youngest servant in House Redford. That sparks Maria's memory, the first time she saw Corey, which was when she visited the fiefdom Jacques was managing. The poor girl was being beaten by her father in the middle of the street. Maria couldn't just stand there. She took Corey in, thinking she'd be the one taking care of her, but in the end, it was Corey who looked after her. Still does. Maria suddenly asks if it isn't time for Corey to get married. She says she'll find a good husband for her, someone decent, because she knows how hard Corey has worked all these years. But Corey gently turns her down, saying she doesn't want to leave Maria, not yet. Maria is surprised and tells her not to be silly, especially considering how terribly she's treated her. But Corey insists that's not true. Then, after a pause, she says she has a small wish, and that wish can't come true if she leaves Maria. Maria tells Corey to tell her the wish, because she might be able to help. Corey says she's not strong enough yet to make that wish come true, no matter how desperately she wishes for it, but hopefully it will happen soon. Then she says that her wish is for Maria to be happy. Corey tells Maria she'd do absolutely anything just to see her happy, and Maria's a little stunned by how loyal this girl is. The way Corey looks at her reminds Maria of Lowell. She tells Corey she's free to make her own choices, but not to come crying later if she regrets sticking around. After Corey thanks her for letting her stay, she asks Corey who the guest is, and Corey says that she isn't sure if he is considered a guest because it is Lord Lowell. Later, Maria, all dolled up and glowing, heads downstairs and bumps into Jacques. He raises a brow at her outfit and reminds her it's just a family dinner. She fires back that it's a big, warm, loving family get-together. Of course, she wants to show she cares. She insults him by saying that he can't even get it up without hitting someone, and he should fix himself as a man before making demands. He gets riled up and yanks her toward the dining room, insisting they put on a show of affection, while she yells at him to let her go. She's about to yank herself free when she spots Lowell, and suddenly everything stops. He's there, standing next to the Marquez. She jerks her hand out of Jacques' grip, and Lowell tells Jacques that it has been a while. Jacques takes Maria's hand again, as he says to Lowell that it has only been a few days, and Lowell says that it has been a while since the entire family gathered together. The Marquez suggests they all sit and eat. Maria flashes Lowell a smile as he walks toward her, but he breezes right past her like she doesn't exist. Her smile dies on the spot. Dinner kicks off, and the Marquez starts grilling Lowell about his lands. Lowell plays the part perfectly, charming, smiley, polite. Maria watches him like a hawk, trying to read him, wondering if she messed things up beyond repair. He doesn't look at her once, and it stings more than she expected. So, to make him jealous, she pulls Jacques' arm close, acting sweet and playful as she asks him to pass the turkey. Under the table, though, she slips her shoe off and starts nudging Lowell's leg. It's immature, she knows that. But she refuses to let Lowell freeze her out, especially in this cold, miserable house. She presses her foot higher, silently begging him to just look at her. And finally, he does, mid-sip, wine glass frozen in the air. Then, to her surprise, he grabs her foot and runs his hand along her leg. She shudders and instinctively clings to Jacques, who has no idea what's happening. Lowell shoots him a smug little smirk. Jacques stabs his food a bit too hard and suddenly offers to slice her turkey. The Marquez, oblivious to what's going on under the table, comments on how happy the couple seems and casually drops a reminder about wanting grandkids. Then he turns to Lowell and says it's about time he settled down, too. Maria jumps in, saying Lowell is a fully grown adult and will figure things out. But in her head, she's panicking. She doesn't want him thinking about anyone else right now. The Marquez asks Lowell if there's anyone he's interested in, and Lowell, cool as ever, says, "What if there is?" Shocking Maria. Marquez Redford, clearly impressed, tells Lowell that if he wants this mystery woman badly enough to turn down an arranged marriage, then he absolutely must have her. Lowell calmly points out that his father hasn't even asked who she is yet. What if she's from a lower class? The Marquis just shrugs and says she can be a concubine instead of his official wife if that's the case. But Lowell ups the stakes, glancing at Maria and asking, what if she's already married? At that, Jacques grips his cutlery so hard as he vibrates in anger. Still unfazed, the Marquez tells Lowell to steal her if he has to. He's a Redford, after all, and Redfords take what they want. Lowell calmly says only tyrants steal from others. That makes the Marquez laugh out loud, raising his glass as he challenges Lowell to say whether he'll give up on the girl. Lowell clinks glasses and says no way, he'll just become a tyrant if that's what it takes. Later, Jacques is having a full-on meltdown in Maria's room, flipping things, and shouting about how his father wants to hand over his wife to Lowell. Maria silently thinks that the Marquez probably didn't realize that she was the woman Lowell was talking about. A knock on the door interrupts Jacques' tantrum. Maria says no one's allowed in, but Corey strolls in anyway, carrying a tray. She says the Marquez sent over a special tea just for Jacques, a rare northern blend that's great for insomnia. Jacques cools down a bit and sits, while Corey gently suggests he drink it while it's still warm. He mumbles to himself about being the true heir and how his father would never abandon him, then downs the tea in one go. Maria, meanwhile, is side-eyeing everything. Since when has the Marquez ever cared this much about Jacques' sleep? Not long after, Jacques starts nodding off. He gets up, groggy and wobbly, saying he needs to lie down before he collapses. Maria tries to nudge him toward his own room, but he flops straight onto her bed and passes out, mumbling something about how it smells like her. Corey just comments that he looks super tired and hands Maria a box of chocolates, the same kind she used to give Lowell whenever he threw fits as a kid. Maria says it's been ages since she's had those, and after Corey leaves, she opens the box and finds a note tucked inside. It's from Lowell, asking her to meet him in the hallway by the back garden. She heads down the dark corridor, a little anxious when she doesn't see him. But then, bam, he appears behind her, gently touching her neck and making her jump. He holds her face, apologizes for scaring her, and calls her adorable. They hug tightly, and he softly asks if she'll look at him. Then, teasing just a bit, he says she owes him a reward for being so well-behaved, and then, finally, they kiss. After they're done with their little moment, the two of them end up lounging on a couch in a nearby room, totally relaxed. Maria, half asleep, mumbles that back when they first met, she never imagined things would end up like this. Lowell casually says he kinda did, and she points out that he was just a kid back then. But he says somewhere along the way, he just knew, he couldn't help but love her. Maria thinks back on how he really had no one else to trust at the time. He was lost, still kind of is, but that doesn't bother her. She's just about to doze off when Lowell suddenly asks if she wants to run away with him. That snaps her right awake. He says he's serious, he'd drop everything if she said the word. And she's completely thrown. This is the same guy who marched into war just to prove a point, and now he's ready to toss it all aside for her? She tells him to stop talking like that, he's worked way too hard to just give it up. But he insists that everything he did was for her, that all he wants is to save her. She tells him he doesn't need to save her. He's more important, and what she wants now is for him to live his life fully and happily. She admits that, yeah, running away together sounds like a dream. But in reality, she'd be branded as the scandalous lady who cheated, and he'd be cast out. They'd be stuck living like fugitives, always looking over their shoulders. Lowell tries to argue that if they ran away, they wouldn't have to deal with people anymore. But she gently tells him he's still young. Even if he thinks he doesn't need society now, eventually that judgment would catch up with him. Then he asks, what if there was a way for them to be together without losing everything? Would she follow him if he found it? She says yes, if such a way exists, she would. She falls asleep not long after, and Lowell quietly covers her with a blanket. Then he closes the curtains, whispering to himself that everything will be different by the time she wakes up. As soon as Lowell steps out, he finds Corey waiting, calm and collected, holding a sword neatly wrapped in cloth. She hands it over like it's no big deal, and he pulls it out to check. Mission accomplished. After that, Corey quietly walks back to the room where Maria is still sleeping and locks the door with a chain. She watches Maria peacefully sleeping and softly tells her that she's willing to do anything to make her happy. Maria pulled her out of a nightmare once, and now it's her turn to return the favor. A few years back, when Jacques told Maria that Lowell was being sent off to war, she was furious. She couldn't believe they were sending a boy to the battlefield. But Jacques said 15 was old enough. Then, in true Jacques fashion, he made it all about himself, grabbing her, accusing her of being upset just because he wasn't the one going. He ranted about not wanting to die in war, said Lowell was just a useless extra eating up the family's fortune, but apparently even the extra had his use. Maria ran off in a panic, desperate to stop Lowell before he left. She couldn't bear the thought of losing him, too. She found him training alone in the woods, all serious and determined. He told her not to worry, that he'd survive by ending anyone who tried to take him down first. She felt helpless, but he promised her he'd come back stronger and save her. Just like that night with the vase, years ago, when he caught her after she'd spent her first night with Jacques. He'd come out holding a vase over his head, asking if she thought he couldn't protect her. And when she tried to calm him down, he shouted that he would save her, even if he had to smash his way through everything. Back in the present, Maria suddenly wakes up shouting his name. The room's empty. She quickly gets dressed, heart racing, and heads into the hallway, only to be hit by the sharp, metallic scent of blood. Confused, she takes a few steps and accidentally steps on something soft. It's someone's hand. She stumbles and that's when she sees it, bodies of servants scattered across the floor like a nightmare come to life. Lowell casually walks up behind her, stretches out a hand, and greets her like nothing's wrong, asking if she slept well. Panicking, she grabs his hand and says they need to leave, right now. But then, one of the servants, still barely alive, grabs her dress, begging for help. Before she can react, Lowell stabs him, casually explaining that the neck is usually the most reliable spot, but looks like he missed. Shocked, she asks if he's the one who did all this, and he just calmly says that life was too cruel for them to live in it, so he removed the obstacles. Now that there are no more witnesses, he tells her it's time for her to finally come into his arms. Maria stares at Lowell in complete shock, her whole body trembling. Then, without a word, she shoves him away and takes off running. Lowell looks surprised, then laughs as he calls after her, wondering why she's running. Didn't he do exactly what she wanted? She races through the blood-stained halls, heart pounding, unable to process what she's seeing. It's a massacre. No one was spared. And the scariest part? Lowell did it. She loses a shoe as she sprints to find Jacques, praying he's still alive. But when she bursts into her room, she stops dead in her tracks. There he is, Jacques, bruised, lifeless, tied and hanging from the ceiling. Her knees give out, and she collapses, screaming. Her mind races. This is bad. Really, really bad. She needs to get out, fast. Then Lowell walks in, calm as ever, and asks why she came here. Was she worried about Jacques? She tries to respond, but he cuts her off, bitterly pointing out that despite everything Jacques did to her, he's the first person she ran to. But it's fine, he says, he took care of it. He gave her justice. He lowers Jacques' body, steps on his head, and tells her Jacques probably suffered just as much as she did. He even made sure Jacques woke up before the torture began, just so he wouldn't get a peaceful death. Then, with a twisted smile, he takes Maria's hand and asks if he did well, places her hand on his cheek, asking for praise, a kiss, a hug. Maria yanks her hand back and asks, suspiciously, how he knew Jacques would be awake. The tea. Jacques passed out right after drinking that tea. That wasn't just luck, someone helped Lowell. She asks if he outlived everyone, and he calmly says not everyone. Her maid Corey is safe, because she also wanted Maria to be happy. That's when it hits her, Corey was in on this. Lowell hugs her tightly while she's still trying to wrap her head around it all. How could they do something like this in the name of her happiness? No one will punish her. She just needs to do what she's always done, make the safest choice. Maria sinks to the ground, his words echoing in her head. Meanwhile, Lowell checks the time. He says he'd love to stay and comfort her, but he's got something else to take care of. He kisses her on the head and starts to leave. She grabs his arm, demanding to know where he's going, what he's planning to do now. Lowell glances at her bare foot, then scoops her up in his arms, saying if she's so worried, she might as well come along. He carries her straight to his father's room, and when she sees the Marquez tied up in there, bruised and battered, her entire body jolts with fresh horror. Lowell stands over his father and reminds him of what he said at dinner, how a Redford should take whatever he wants. Then, without a hint of hesitation, he yanks the man's head back by his hair and finally says the name. The woman he loves is Maria. Maria just stands there, stunned, unable to speak. Lowell turns to her and asks if she thinks he's wrong for doing all this. But if she does, he says, it's not his fault, it's his father's. He's just doing what he was taught. He lets go of the Marquez and drops him like he's nothing, saying that what he's done doesn't even compare to what his father did when he took his mother. The whole story about his mother being a commoner? A lie. But before he can explain further, Marquez Redford interrupts him and says Lowell can't be with Maria, because she's his brother's wife. Lowell just laughs bitterly. He says that's rich coming from a man who forced himself on the daughter of his adoptive parents. Then he tells Maria the truth. The previous Marquez of Redford and his wife were genuinely in love, but they couldn't have a son. So to protect the family name, and especially their daughter's future, they adopted a boy from a distant relative, who lived in the countryside. He adds that being a distant relative is worse than being an illegitimate child. That boy grew up to be the current Marquez Redford. Lowell tells Maria how that boy, hungry with envy, wanted everything his adoptive family had. So he murdered the former Marquez and his wife in a staged carriage accident. The only one he left alive was their daughter, Rosariel. He gave her a nickname, Roll. At the funeral, Marquez Redford tried to comfort Rosariel, but she pushed him away and accused him of assassinating her parents. He didn't deny it, he just asked her why she thought he did it. The Marquis asks Lowell if this is revenge for his mother. Lowell says no and that he doesn't feel anything for her. He then shares what really happened. When he was born, he and his mother lived in that basement room. She hated him. She would shove him away and call him a demon. One day, the Marquez came to visit. He'd heard Rosariel wasn't eating, and commented on how her beauty would return if she took care of herself. Then, while holding her hair and whispering in that same creepy tone, he asked if she wanted to join her parents. When she didn't answer, he kissed her, violently, and forced himself on her, right there in front of little Lowell. Lowell closed his eyes and ears, trying to block it out. But he felt something cold, snow, and when he looked up, he saw Jacques watching through the window. Jacques met his eyes, and walked away. A year later, Rosariel woke Lowell with a dinner knife pressed to his face. She pointed it at him, trembling, asking why he looked at her like she was a stranger. She accused him of being just like his father, and said he was a monster. Then she dropped to the floor, broken. She called him her son and said she couldn't do it anymore. It was time for her to be free. She held the knife to her neck, waiting for him to say something. He stayed silent. She told him again that she'd given birth to a demon. Then, right in front of him, she ended her life. Back in the present, Lowell looks down at his father, cold and calm, and tells him he's just reclaiming what was stolen, that House Redford was never his to begin with. He grabs the man by the collar, calls him a thief and a tyrant, says goodbye, and slits his throat. He turns to Maria and says it's all over now, he'll make her happy from here on out. She just stares, completely frozen. He pulls her into a hug, saying that he saved her. But when he leans in to kiss her, she shoves him away. She tells him people will be suspicious that he's the only one who survived. Lowell calmly asks if she really thinks anyone would believe he did this all by himself. Then, without warning, he stabs himself. Just enough to bleed, not die. He says that now, no one will question anything. He's not a kid anymore, he can handle it all. Maria trembles, completely shaken. She realizes Lowell is far more dangerous than she thought, and she's terrified. She steps back, heart racing, when he suddenly asks if she wants to play hide and seek, like they used to. He even starts counting aloud, like it's a game. Maria hesitates as she wonders if he was giving her a chance to run. She doesn't know, but if there's any chance at all, she takes it. So she runs. Lowell remembers the first time he ever truly wanted someone in his life. It was Maria. Years ago, she once asked him why he wasn't hanging out with Sir Bolton's son anymore. He told her it was because the boy called him illegitimate. He hadn't really cared, he found the kid annoying anyway. But Maria? She was furious. She ranted about how that kid had no right to judge, especially with a cheating mother and a father who couldn't perform. Lowell told her that she couldn't say stuff like that, and she poked him, asking him if he was trying to teach her, which made him blush. He thinks that Maria was always herself around him. She laughed, cried, raged, always real, always raw. And he knew, it was only because to her, he was just a harmless kid. He used to watch her while she slept. There was one time, she was sitting by the fountain, and he brought her some fruit. They ended up splashing each other, soaking her dress. He couldn't look away. He doesn't know when exactly it started, but he began dreaming of her. Wanting to be with her. Loving her just felt natural. She was all he had out there on the battlefield. While others called him a devil for surviving wounds that should have ended his life, all he could think about at the edge of death was Maria. Every single day, every single night, it was her, her smile, her soft voice, the thought of one day holding her again. That hope was what kept him going. He believed that if he could just come back and save her from Jacques, maybe, just maybe, she'd fall for him too. But now, he's not so sure anymore. Now, she's helping him sit by a window while telling him Corey went to get help. She starts fussing over his wound, scolding him for being so reckless, but he just smiles. She assumes it's because she's doing a terrible job with the bandage and starts explaining how she's never done this before. He interrupts her with a quiet, "Thank you, for coming back." He kisses her hand and says he could do worse, much worse, if that's what it takes to keep her with him. He begs her not to leave. Then he kisses her. But just as things start to heat up, Maria gently pushes him away. She reminds him that this is not the time, he's injured, the house is a crime scene, and there's way too much going on. Lowell, undeterred, takes her foot, still dirty from the chaos, and kisses it. He tells her that he'll do all the loving. All she has to do is use him however she wants. She kisses the top of his head and quietly agrees to do as he says. And then, soft as a whisper, he tells her he loves her. After the whole mess with House Redford, people couldn't stop talking. The rumor is that Lowell basically saved the day all by himself and took care of his late brother's wife, Maria, like a total hero. The public loved him for it. Fast forward 3 years, and Maria walks into a fancy ball looking absolutely stunning. Her outfit is so expensive looking that everyone's heads turn, but of course, the whispers start. Some say she's gotten a little too extra since the tragedy. Maria doesn't even blink, she walks right up to the gossip crew and casually shuts them down. She even throws in a little reminder that thanks to Lowell's war efforts, their estate now includes one of the most harvest-rich regions in the kingdom. Basically, they're loaded. Then she says she's bored and leaves. Outside, she asks Corey what Lowell's up to. Corey informs her that he's back home, having a meeting with Lord Baron, one of his old war buddies. Maria heads straight home and barges into the office. She walks in mid-meeting and says sorry, but Lowell brushes it off like they were wrapping up anyway. Lord Baron tries to argue that they aren't done yet, but Lowell's already saying goodbye. As he leaves, Baron's just thinking, yup, the rumors were true. Lowell lets Maria do whatever she wants. Lowell asks why Maria's back so early and if someone bothered her, and before she can even answer, he's already plotting revenge. She tells him what happened and gives him a playful shove onto the couch. He tells her he'll just buy her even fancier stuff next time so no one dares open their mouth again. She looks at him and goes, "How could I not fall for you when you treat me like this?" which surprises him. He tells her that it is the first time she has said that she has fallen for him. Maria thinks that she can't say she loves him but she knows she cares for him. She kisses him, but instead of getting carried away, he just hugs her tight. She asks if something's wrong. He tells her he wants to be someone she can rely on, someone she runs to when things go bad. But when he's around her, he still feels like a love-struck teenager. She laughs and teases him a little, then pretends to be upset that he rejected her. He panics and drops to his knees, apologizing like his life depends on it. He says he was scared she'd think he's weak for letting her get away with everything. Then he begs her to let him have her, and she does. Maria knows he's not the most mature when he's around her, but that's not what she wants anyway. She just wants to be the one who drives him crazy and the only one who can calm him down. They're cuddled up in bed when Maria suddenly sits up, looking a little confused. She wonders out loud if what she's feeling might be her cycle. Lowell immediately perks up, asking what she means. She tells him that her cycle can shift when she's really tired. He's instantly concerned and suggests calling the doctor. She says it's probably nothing, but Lowell insists, he just has a weird feeling something's off. The doctor comes over, does a checkup, and drops the news, Maria's pregnant. He gives her a whole list of things to take care of for the next few months, then leaves. Lowell casually mentions he paid the doctor to keep quiet, then thanks Maria like she's handed him the world. Meanwhile, Maria's still processing it all. She never got pregnant with Jacques, so why now? She asks Lowell if he's actually happy about the pregnancy. He says he is, but also a little worried. Maria admits she's upset. If she has a baby, she'll be stuck inside for a year, constantly on edge, worried people will find out. She doesn't even have a husband. It'll raise questions about her, about Lowell, about the massacre. Everything could come crashing down. She figures Lowell will be fine, he's still a war hero, but she's the one who'll take the hit. Lowell tells her not to worry about that stuff. He'll take care of everything. Politics, backdoor deals, whatever it takes. If she wants this hidden, it stays hidden. But when she says she doesn't want to have the child, he doesn't hesitate. He says they'll get rid of it. Then, almost immediately, he adds that forcing a miscarriage could hurt her, and he doesn't want that. He kisses the top of her head and says he'll respect whatever choice she makes. All he wants is for her to be happy. She asks if he's really okay not having a child. Lowell says he's honestly glad she's carrying something that proves their love, it makes him feel like she's truly his. But if it's hurting her, then the child means nothing. She'll always come first. They can worry about heirs and titles later. When he says succession, Maria freezes. She realizes Lowell will need an heir one day. He swore he wouldn't marry, but it's been years. What if a noble family tries to arrange something? Or worse, what if the imperial family steps in? They're close to Lowell, after all. If he marries someone else and has a child, what happens to her? So she asks what he'll do if she decides to keep the baby. Lowell says he'll just tell people it's an illegitimate child from a one-night stand. Nobles do that all the time. Just like Jacques and their father did. Then he kisses her. Maria thinks maybe she can't be his wife, but if their child becomes the next head of the family, then she'll always have a place by his side. Even if people talk, even if fingers point, Lowell and her child will be on her side. She tells him she's keeping the baby. Lowell doesn't question it. He just smiles and says whatever made her change her mind, he's glad. She makes him promise she won't have to worry, and he does, swearing to protect her no matter what. Then he grins, calls her his Maria, the bold woman having a child without a husband, scoops her into his arms, and playfully asks who the father is. She laughs and tells him it's her pet demon. The end. If you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.